any of them. Here, I'll stand up with you. Here. Whoop, put it on that.
That feels nice.
Oops. There it is. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Could I get one of those later?
Sure. Any of you want to take pictures? Well, I'd be very happy to. Any more questions?
You made it in last night.
Yes.
Everything okay?
In the back there, would you ladies care to move down further this way, where you're not blocked by the cameras and we can see what's going on? Yeah, move down here. It makes it more friendly. Yeah, I feel like I'm running for office. Running from it. See, that looks nice. That much water around. We have a drought out in California. It's so bad that the water, we have to dilute it. Two farmers heard I had water on the knee and they tried to make a deal. There's some empty seats down here. Yeah, come on, sit down, make yourselves at home. Do you want a grilled sandwich or something? Yeah. Well, is somebody going to ask questions, or is it going to be a staring contest?
I'll start off.
All right.
You've entertained millions and millions of people for
Yeah.
years, Mr. Skelton. Who entertains you? Who do you
People.
like
People.
Who do you like to see as far as professional entertainers?
People, mostly. Professionals I admire, but they don't really entertain you because you know that they're entertaining. But ordinary people who are not in the show business, they give you the mannerisms and the things that you can study and mime them. And basically that's what pantomime is miming these people that you have a great depth and can understand them so well that you don't dislike them completely. See? It's like I've never seen an ugly person in my life. I've seen people who do things that make themselves ugly, but I've never seen anyone that was really ugly. So they entertain me, the people do.
You're known as one of America's great clowns, and in fact, you were one of the first inductees into the Clown Hall of Fame.
Uh-huh.
Many of the inductees that were with you, there's only two of you left, yourself and Lou Jacobson, who is in very, very poor health now.
Yes, I know.
Who are the next great American clowns that are still out there?
Oh, there's quite a few. I can't think of their names right now. But there's one little guy that wears like a janitor's hat. He's very funny. He's clever. He's a producing clown. There are a lot of young people that are very funny and very understanding of their fellow man. And basically that's what it is. That's all acting is going out and behaving the way that these people do. Don't try to perform. Like I go into places and the students will come up to me and say, "You get nervous before you get on?" I said, "Why should I be nervous? They bought the tickets." And then I say to them, "Are you in the drama class?" "Yeah." "Are you nervous when you go on?" "Oh yeah, I'm nervous the first show." "How are you the second show?" "Well, a little bit better." "How are you about the fifth show?" "Well, I'm pretty well good. That's the trick. Know your part well enough that you won't be nervous the first night either.
Mr. Skelton, you're from Indiana. Can you say a little bit about your feelings for Indiana?
Yeah, the same as they were when I left. He said, "What do you like about coming back to Indiana?" This is the fact that I was leaving again. No, it's a wonderful state. I mean, it's the world, actually. The sun rises in Richmond and sets in Terre Haute. See?
You've written so many songs. I just was curious on what you thought about rap and heavy metal.
I do a rap thing in my show. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's not new, dear heart. When I was in burlesque years ago, now when I say burlesque, it was a little bit different from what they call burlesque now, because we had children in the audience and ladies in the audience and stuff. and there were no striptease or anything like that. But I remember 3 or 4 sketches that we had where the whole thing was in cadence like that, you know. So it's not new. It's just that this generation has never heard of it, and they came out with it, and here it is. It lay dormant for about 30, 40 years, from the end of burlesque until now, to where it's coming back again. But the lyrics were a little bit different, you know, in those days. Gets a little rough out there sometimes.
Do you have one big highlight in your career that you will always remember?
Yeah, after the show's over, when they pay me. Just read them off as you come to them, and it'll be easier.
Okay.
It'll be easier for you.
In every form of show business.
Except Carnival and Grand Opera.
Do you have any plans to perform in those 2 places?
Well, they offered me in a play, an opera, where a drunk. It's I can't think of the name of the opera right now, but he does pantomime just that one sketch, one part of the opera, and they Metropolitan wanted me to do it, and the San Francisco Opera Company wanted me to do it. Talking about opera, I was in Russia, and I had seen the ballet, but I wanted to go to the opera. So I'm at the Russia Hotel, and I go downstairs, and the lady behind the counter, the desk, kept ignoring me. So finally I says, "Pardon me, madam." She says, "Don't call me madam." Says, "You're in Russia. We're comrades." I said, "Well, I'm from the States. I didn't know what this." She says, "I know. What can I do for you?" I said, "I want to get tickets for the opera." She says, "Which one?" I says, "Comrade Butterfly." What else you got there?
Oh, I've got a whole lot of going on, but I just wanted to know, you've performed for over 50 years and you hold the record for 20 consecutive years on television.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the main factor for your success?
People liking what you're doing, I suppose, and having a dedication that when you walk out on the stage, you want to entertain people instead of how much am I earning here. Put on another act and you leave before the show is over, so that you don't have to sign autographs and things. I think basically that's the whole thing. That the audience, you can't fool the audience. They know if you like them as much as they like you. Now they must like you or they wouldn't come to see you. So that's why I say you never get nervous in front of them. Nobody, you're not going to pay to go see somebody you don't like, unless you're protesting something, and then you break in on that.
Have you ever thought that you would run out of ideas for all your books, because you've written so many?
No, because every day, each breath is an adventure. Every time you see something, you say you can do something from that. You can write it down, just make notes, and then file it away. And someday when you get stuck for an idea, you go through and say, "Hey, that'll fit in here." So,
have you ever thought about writing a survival book for redheads?
well, if I could, I'd have hair myself, you see. With me, it's no more head and shoulders, it's now mop and glow, you see.
What inspired you?
And let me ask you something.
Sure.
Have you ever had a serious operation physically yet? No. Well, when you do, your hair will start to change. There's something about the medications that they give you that changes the color. It kills the iodine in your body. And that's what makes red hair. You have a lot of iodine. I don't go get a bottle of it and drink it so your hair will get red. But you have iodine in your system. And the medications that I took when I had my appendix operation, then I had 2 diaphragmatic hernia operations. And my hair started turning another color, darker, you know. And then the first color special I did at CBS, they said his hair's not red enough. So they put a red dye on it and it turned green. It did. And now they had to find a way to get my hair back to where it's red, you know. I used to do horrible things when color first came out to the cameraman. I knew as much about it as they did, you know, because everybody had been in television about 20 minutes. I go down to the makeup department and I put a green line, a red line down all on one side of my face, see? Then I put my makeup over that. Now I know that when the camera hits you, it's going to come through, see? But when you look at you normally, you look okay, see? So there was a little, one head of the camera department, he came limping by me as I went by. And he said, I said, what's the matter? He said, that SOB's turning green, you know? Because they get this side lined up and the other side would go green. See? Plaid. I came out plaid. See?
You do so many characters. Do you have a favorite?
One that had the best script, you know? The ones that still get fan mail, well, they all get fan mail, but Freddie gets a lot of fan mail. Clem Cadiddlehopper gets the most. Still gets fan mail. They're right. When are you coming back on? Why don't you talk Red into releasing his shows? There's some cassettes out now that are bootlegged. They're not real. I have nothing to do with them. CBS and I have a lawsuit against these companies, but they're selling, and how they got them we don't know. That's all we're trying to find out. Where did they get these tapes to begin with, you know? But they're very bad quality to begin with. They look like old kinescopes. And so they're charging these people $19 from some of them down as low as $4, you know. But when you find out who's doing it, they change their name and move someplace else. And they're hard to track down. It's a real racket.
When was the last time you had your makeup on for Freddie?
Radio City Music Hall. I said, I'm going to try something. Everybody says, Freddie the Freeloader, do Freddie the Freeloader. So I put on the makeup. Now I put it on. As I'm putting it on, I said, what an idiotic thing this is. Now I've got to do the rest of the show like Freddie. And it's not going to work out. See? But it went all right, but I never did it again. But that was the last time.
How long ago was that?
The Radio City Music Hall? About 6 years ago. I just played Carnegie Hall. Yeah, that was good.
What is your opinion of the contemporary comedy era, which began in the 60s, which comedians started to use social issues like politics and things like that in their stand-up act?
Well, as far as politics is concerned, that's been going on since the beginning of time. Aristophanes and his 11 comedies, that's why the comedians start wearing makeup and a mask and stuff, because these people would grab them and kill them. And then with Will Rogers, for instance, that was all political things practically with him. But the one thing that I couldn't understand is the use of the 4-letter words. Now they say they're standing on their constitutional rights. I don't think they're standing on them. They're trampling it. I don't think anyone should have to pay money at a box office to hear things they can read on public bathroom walls. So I don't think it's funny, truthfully. But there are a lot of wonderful young comedians out there. There's a little kid by the name of John Plate, P-A-T-E. I think that's his, P-A-T-E. He's really funny. I saw him in Vegas. He's a funny boy, and he doesn't use any off-color things, and he talks about things that are happening, but he doesn't get into the social issues of personal things. But he's funny, and I like Jay Leno. I like Letterman, but I don't like that guy in the orchestra. You know, the guy that has the orchestra. What's his name? Yeah, he's got the personality of the back wall of a handball court. You know, he's good. He's a good musician. I admire his ability for music, but he kills David Letterman. You know. He went to school here.
How did you, when you were a young comedian or now, how do you push back the boundaries of what people think about in terms of social issues or just what people think about in general?
Well, you follow along those lines, only you don't get into it in depth. You can use jokes like I use a joke in the show now. I found out what that thing is on Gorbachev's head. His secret hobby is stepping on rakes. I says, any day now, those 5 guys that kidnapped him, you're going to see where they died with Russian flu. Russian flu is a slight cold in a firing squad. See? in the local politics. It's like with I entertained at the White House when Carter was in office. See, and I did Clem Cadiddle Hopper, and he took it personal. You know? I do those kind of things, but no, to get down into the depths of the things, you don't have to. Just slant it on one, then throw one at the other side at the same time to balance it off, and they let you alone. Yeah.
What are your favorite TV shows right now?
Truthfully, I do 75 concerts a year. I don't have much chance to look at any of the shows. I saw one the other night that was funny. A young girl, a little young girl and her daughter, her sister and her mother. And it was on Saturday night. Maybe you'll know what it was. I think it was before or after those Golden Girls, what do they call them? Golden Age, or whatever that thing is. That's a pretty good show. And the guy that plays the doctor with his two daughters, yeah. Empty Nest, yeah. See, I don't know what they are. But I turned it on, I don't even know what half the stuff is. So I watch it for a couple of minutes. They've got a couple of new shows that came on that they were good for about 5 minutes, and I flipped them right off, you know. Time is very valuable. I mean, why you sit there and look at something if you don't like it, you shut it off, you know. But somebody else comes along and says, I like that. I thought that was good. So it balances off, I guess, pretty well.
What do you like to do with your time?
Well, my day starts around 5:30 in the morning. Now, I just got in last night, but there's no jet lag with me because I drink a lot of water when I'm on the airplane. People don't realize jet lag is dehydration. And so as long as you drink a lot of water, you're okay. So I woke up at the same time as I do out on the coast. It was 5:30 this morning I got up. First thing I do after I shower and shave, I write a love letter to Mrs. Skelton, whether I'm at home or away. And I do a pencil sketch to illustrate something in the letter. And then I write 5 musical selections. I carry a small little piano with me, a little portable thing. And then I write an outline for a short story. And then on Sunday, I take the best of the 7 stories and write a complete story. That way I have 365 ideas a year and 52 short stories. And 20 of them a year I publish, and I sell through my mail order business. And they're sold even before they're finished. We send these brochures to, I have like 750,000 people on the mailing list. So we pick out about 5,000, we send them out. And then the ones that come back and want the book, we send them the book. If they like the book, they keep it. They send it to me, I autograph it to them personally, and then mail it back to them. If they don't like the book, we charge them $2 for the mailing cost, and then we ship the book to someone else, see? So they're all sold in less than a month and a half. You know, I did 10,000 copies of each book.
Sounds like you're working all the time.
No, it's fun. Then I can go out after I get the idea down for a little short story, which is no idea, there's no strain at all. You're doing that right now. You're writing the night before I go to sleep, and I've got book after book of this. And I've kept a log of my life ever since I was leather bound, so that when I pass on, my daughter or my wife or somebody in the family can get the exact things from the books. Now there's 3 books out on my life that I haven't even met the people that wrote it.
You're not doing an autobiography before you're
No, I'm not ashamed of anything I've done, but I wouldn't want to relive that again. And you go through it, and it's there, and you start, I don't want to go through that again, of what happened those 2 years, and then read that over again. It's bad enough as it was, you know. So why make yourself unhappy? And don't take life seriously, because you're not going to get out of it alive to begin with. Yeah. And try to look at people and like them. You have to like people. I don't know of anything I really dislike, you know. Like I say, I don't hate my enemies because I made them. It keeps you on a level keel of your own self. And when somebody says to me, my legs hurt, I know how they feel. Because for 45 years, and we'll talk about that later, because the press have been nice. They've never mentioned this at all. But I know how somebody feels if they say their legs hurt. Or if somebody says, I just had a diaphragmatic operation. I know how they feel, because it's, yeah, gosh, I went through that myself, you know. So all those things are experiences. Can I ask you a question? At night, do they hang you on curtain rods with those big things? Sometimes. The little waitress came in this morning. I looked at her and I said, "That new hairstyle, is it windy out?" She looked like a scared mop. Hi. What are you going to have? You know. When you start losing your hair, you hate people with hair. Not really.
This marks your fourth appearance at Ball State. Besides the obvious fact that they keep asking you back, what brings you back?
Big airplane. I do 75 concerts a year. I'm on airplanes 150 times a year, which is frightening, because you're on a plane and you look out the window and one of the motors is gone, you know. Or you make a landing and I got off the plane in Indianapolis and I said to the pilot, shook his head and said, "Nice having you with us." I said, "Hey, it was a nice flight." He said, "I'm glad you enjoyed it." I said, "I didn't say that." You know what the worst airline in the world is? Air India. The first class passengers, they give you a bowl of chicken curry and rice. Second class passengers, they give you a bowl of rice. Third class passengers, they give you a bowl and you beg from the first two classes.
Do you have any plans to retire anytime soon?
When they nail the lid down. Yeah, no, why retire? I could never understand why people work all their lives to try and perfect something. Then when they get to the point where they've almost perfected it, they want to quit. Why? That's why the younger generation doesn't want to follow their footsteps. Well, if it's not good enough for them, why do I want to do it? You know? So like in the 1900s, so that was the greatest part of our country at that time. If we'd have kept on with that kind of thinking, everybody would have mansions and living in them, I believe, because they had an ambition and they had instinct about things was better. Now everything is looking for something for nothing, you know, which is kind of sad. You know?
Who were the people that have influenced you more in your life more than anybody else?
Well, I don't know of anybody I try to imitate or follow in their footsteps. I've admired. Ed Wynn was a great influence in my life. I was selling newspapers in Vincennes, and this fellow came up to me and he says, "What do they do in this town for excitement?" I said, "Well, there's a big road show in town tonight, a big New York comedian, and that's what I'm going to be when I get older." I was about 9 years old at the time. I said, "That's what I'm going to do when I get big. I'm going to try to make people laugh." He says, "Are you going to go see this comedian tonight?" I said, "No, I don't have that kind of money." He says, "Well, I know the manager of the theater, and if you come back, I said, "Well, I got to sell my papers." I had 4 papers left. He bought them, gave me $1. And the papers were 3 cents in those days. And then he let me keep my papers, so that meant I could tear the headlines off and the name of the paper, take it back and get my cent and a half back for buying the papers. He had to buy your papers, and then if you didn't sell them, you turn them back in. So he gave me $1. So I told my mother, and so she gave me a dime, nickel for car fare and a nickel for popcorn. She says, "But you come right straight home." So I went down to the Pantheon. I didn't know if the guy would be there or not. There he was, waiting out in front of the theater, and he takes me up, and they put me up in the balcony. And he disappeared, and I'm sitting there, and the curtain opens, and out walks Ed Wynn. And it was the guy that got me my ticket. I said to the people around me, "That's my friend down there. He got me my ticket here for that." You know, everybody shushing me. So when it was at the intermission, I ran downstairs, went backstage, and the stagehands knew I was stage struck anyhow. They said, "Get away." He said, No, let him in, let him in. I don't know if you remember Ed Wynn or not. He says, let him in. So he said, "How did you like the show?" I said, "Gee, I didn't know that was you." He says, "So you're going to be a comedian, huh?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Have you ever seen an audience?" I said, "No." He said, "Come here." So he held me up to the asbestos curtain, and there's a peephole. And I saw the people coming back to their seats, and I fell in love with them. I said, "That's my family." And as he put me down, he says, "Those are border lights up there." He says, "In front of the curtain of the footlights. They're called footlights, you know." He says, "And there's the battens that they hang the lamps on and stuff. Curtains at the trailer there." And he says, "Remember, just do comedy. Just make people laugh. Do funny things. It's not what you say is funny, it's what you do with things are funny." So I always remember it. And we kept in touch with each other for all those years. Now the scene changes. He's going to do his first dramatic role at CBS. I go down for a wardrobe fitting early in the morning. and I see a car parked on this big parking lot all by itself, and somebody's at the wheel. I go over and I peek in, and it's Ed Wynn, and he's drunk, and he didn't drink. They didn't drink. So I said, Ed, what's the matter? He says, I can't go through with this. He says, I'm a comedian. I can't go out there. I said, come on. So I stayed with him all day long. They did a Playhouse 90 of Ed and me, and this same episode later, to where I found him. I stayed with him and we sobered him up. And he did this, and he got the Emmy Award that year for Best Actor. And when I saw when it come on at 8 o'clock on the West Coast, it had already been on the East Coast. So as soon as I saw the play, I sent him a telegram. I said, Ed, you were wonderful, but remember, just do comedy. Yeah.
Did he help you get started?
No, in no way whatsoever. It's just that I say Ed Wynn's a friend of mine. You know, who do you know in this business? Well, Ed Wynn's a friend of mine. You know, matter of fact, I got a letter from him here now. And they look at it. Yeah, well, maybe this kid's all right. You know, and they'd book me. I'd stink. You know, God, play these. There was no audience come to see the show anyhow. The places I played, the seats would get up and walk out. You know.
Yeah.
What, dear heart?
Do you think your comedy holds up to today's generation?
Well, honey, I just played Phoenix, Arizona. Had 22,000 people.
But who do you think bought your tickets? Do you think it was mostly older or students?
No, they're little tiny children come to see the show. All ages come. The Minneapolis, just before that, had 15,000 people. They're sold out here, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, and so I every place I play, they sell out. So I think it holds up. I was in Toronto for 5 days, and they were sold out every night. So it's kind of flattering. And I have no press agents. I have no agents. I have no attorneys. Nothing. Mrs. Skelton and I do the whole thing ourselves. They call in. Someone called her and they said, "No, we've booked Mr. Skelton in. Well, there's some things we'd like to know. How many in the orchestra?" She said, "Anywhere from 17 to 65, whatever you can afford." So okay, hang up again. They said, "How many's in his entourage?" He says, "You meet him at the airport, and that's it." Then they hang up and they say, "How long does he do? About 45 minutes?" He says, "He bows that long." She says, "Look, I tell you what you do. You've signed the contract. You meet him at the airport. You take him to the hotel, put him in his room, and when it's the day of the show, you go get him, take him to the theater, push him out on the stage, and figure a way getting him off." Yeah. My show usually runs 2 hours, you know, sometimes more, because I keep asking the audience, "You're getting tired?" And then they yell out things that they want to see, that they remember. The elderly people, because they want their children to see it, you know.
What characters do they ask for the most?
Clem, and the seagulls, Gertrude and Heathcliff. They're standing on the beach together, these two seagulls. They're standing there, and their little friend, the sparrow, comes up, and he's limping, and he's got a broken leg and not a feather on him. Got a broken wing and not a feather on him. And they says, "What on earth happened to you?" He says, "Oh, I was flying low over the athletic club, and I got in the damnedest badminton game you ever thought." You know? I find that one hair, I can straighten it out.
Have you ever considered taking someone under your wing, so to speak, to carry on your legacy of comedy?
No, but I tell you what I'm doing now. I'm writing a play called Merry Month of Christmas, which I'll be sending to the colleges throughout the country. One of the students will rehearse my part. I come in and I do my part, and they act the play out with me. And then the monies that come in after the production and the travel costs and stuff, the money goes to the students for their tuitions. See? And so that each one gets commensurate to what they've done in the show. I point out to them, if you have one line, like I say, she'll be here in an hour, that's the most important line in the show. So they have to get as much as anybody else in the show, because if they don't say that line, the play's over. See? So then everybody gets the same amount, like the one that plays the lead. Then we'll take the best of the actors of the colleges throughout the country, and put it all in one and do a motion picture. After it has played the four-wall booking thing, not through like in this town for 2 weeks, and we pick out 5 cities a year. And then when the critics criticize something in the play, we can rewrite it so that when we do it the next year, the next critic is ready to pick on that. And he said, well, God, I didn't see that in it. That was great. What's with these people, you know? One of the greatest critics in the country, our dean of all critics, is going to be here Saturday night. He's Howard and Pamela Reich from the Chicago Tribune. This is one of the deans of the critics. It used to be Ashton Stevens in Chicago. The New York Times offered this critic most outrageous salary you've ever heard in your life to come to New York, and he said, no, I'll stay in Chicago. But he's coming to see the show. And he reviewed my show at the Chicago Theater. He is constructive in his criticisms. He'll criticize something, but point out why he picked on that and how it could be improved, which is a critic. It's like Boswell was, and Addison, Joseph Addison, back in Dickens's time. They were real critics, you know. It's not the new, as an example, a picture's coming out called The Red Eye. Now this critic says, oh yeah, well it's sure red in mine because I got sore eyes looking at the movie. They want some pun that they have to put in their column, so they condemn the whole play instead of saying whether they liked it or not. What did the audience think of it? Not what the critic think, but what did they think? He must feel the same as the audience did. If you like, the only time I ever wrote a critic a note was in Toronto. I was at the exposition there, and I didn't leave until 6 o'clock the next night. So the newspaper came out, and I usually don't read these things. So I read this, and it says a lady reviewed the show. If you can call 4 standing ovations and the audience laughing like idiots a success, Red Skelton was a success. But I never heard such hackneyed material in all my life. And she really ripped me to shreds. I sent her a telegram. I says, dear heart, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy my performance, but we all can't go through menopause together, can we? She sent me a telegram back, says, touche. Now when I play Toronto, she calls me as soon as I get in town, and we have dinner together, and she says, I don't know why I wrote that. She said, I know why. I wanted to go on another assignment, and they gave me this, and I just picked on you. She says, I laughed like everybody else did. And we're the closest of friends now. Her name's Morning Star, is her name. And she's a little Russian lady. But but I sent her this thing, and I said, what'd you ever do with the telegram? She said, I got it framed.
What memories do you have of growing up in Indiana?
Well, I left when I was 10 years old. I remember that I won the music memory contest and was shipped from Vincennes to Indianapolis. And it was a tie between me and a girl at the finish. I won in Vincennes, and then it was sent there. There were 2 people left, me and this young girl. And it was a tie again. So they said, pick an author and a composer and write a short resume about them, you know. It was a tie again. I read mine, she read hers. How do you think I lost the music memory contest? Spelling. And I said to them, what the hell has that got to do with music? And walked out and didn't even take my second prize. I remember that very well. Then I remember we moved from Indianapolis back to Vincennes, and they said I wasn't old enough to be in the 5th grade, so they put me back in the 4th. So that was a rap for me. But I used to read my brother's books and stuff because they were a class ahead. And then I'd sit in school and I paid attention, but wasn't interested because I'd already been through this, you know. And I'd make out the exams and everything. Did you hear about the coach? Goes to one of the teachers at the college, and he says, you got to pass this kid in the examinations this week because he's one of my best players and I need him for the big game on Saturday. The teacher says, I'm sorry, he's got to take the exam like everybody else. The coach says, oh, come on. So he says, no, I got to give it to him. So he sees him about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He says, how'd the kid make out? He says, I can't pass him. He's not, I don't think he's all that. I says, what is 7 times 5? And he says, 42. So the coach says, well, what the hell, pass him. He only missed it by 1. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Talk about your relationship with PBS and some of the specials you've had, and can we expect any more specials?
I never worked with PBS. What they've done, they've taken that on their own and run them, and we've asked them not to do it, and they do it anyhow. But I don't care if it helps them raise money to keep their station open. I don't mind. But you would think that they would ask first, you know. They take it over like they own you, which is kind of sad in a way. Those are the things that people who want to get in show business have to contend with and be ready for, because you never know when you're a success or when it happens. Like people ask me a question, when were you when did you know that you were a success? I said, from the first time I walked on the stage. I heard people laugh. I didn't know the difference. And I've always been a millionaire. I made $10 a week when I started. I never had $10 a week before. So I was a millionaire. So when I got 15, I still sent 10 home to my mother, and I lived on 5 and still saved $45 at the end of the season. Not exactly. My wife is frugal. She's stingy. Fries bacon and woolite so it won't shrink, you know. She still thinks I'm back in the medicine show business, you know.
Does Mrs. Skelton ever travel with you?
Once in a while. I don't have her travel with me because people ignore her. This is Mrs. Skelton. Oh, how are you? Well, Red, what have you been doing and stuff? And she's never said anything about it, but it hurts me because she's more important than I am. She has to put up with me all day long. And so she raises thoroughbreds and quarter horses. She's a photographer and also a painter. She paints horses. And I do still life, portraits, landscapes, but mostly clowns. I paint clowns. Where's my bag? Who had my bag with the clowns and stuff in it?
You have some with you?
Yes. Here, if you want to see them. I have a big scrim that's in front of me, a big white scrim. Sometimes it's white. But when it's white, I say to the audience, I must explain this scrim up here. Here's a few of my paintings. I average about the airlines from all over the world send me their linen napkins, and I do with Prismacolor pencils. I do these drawings on, and they do it for the publicity. I have 36 galleries across the country, and I have 21 galleries in Canada. And here's some of the things if you want to look at them.
I'd love to. I have one.
Oh, you do?
One of the prints, yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Far my favorite artist.
Well, that's very kind. That's very nice. Yeah, you pass them out, let them look at them if they want
No,
to.
I want to look at them all myself.
No, no.
Which of your characters have changed the most over the years?
They're the same. They're the same. People don't change. Their attitude. I mean, we don't actually get older. Our bodies get older, but our minds stay young. Some minds block off. A lady takes her little kid Christmas shopping. They go to 3 different stores. And the Santa Claus says to the little boy, well, what would you like for Christmas? The kid tells him. Now they go to the next department store. Another Santa Claus says, come here. What would you like for Christmas? The kid looks at him, but he tells him. Now he goes to the next department store and the Santa Claus says, well, what would you like for Christmas? The kid says, you got that Alzheimer's disease. You can't remember a damn thing, can you?
No more questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Skelton.
Oh, all right. Time's up. Their quota. They hit their quota. They can only use so much electricity and then they have to shut it off. Well, I thank all of you for coming here today. I don't know if you got anything out of that or not.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Sir, I'll take my microphone back.
Okay.
If you don't mind there.
Oh, you're going to take that back, huh?
Yeah.
I got the biggest collection of those things you've ever seen.
Where do you get the ideas for your clown paintings?
I see people, if I see a few, I will, I'll stare at them long enough to get a picture of them, or I will take a picture of them. I'll take my movie camera and take a picture, or a still camera and take a picture. And then I study the girl, and then I say, what kind of a makeup could I put on her? Would she still look, and we can see in those.
This is the one I have, and I was just curious, was there someone in particular that was modeled?
Yeah, that was, what's her name, Audrey Meadows.
Okay. Do you ever do portraits of clowns who have their makeup as they've already, you do? If I sent you a picture of me in my makeup, would you do one of me?
You clown work?
15 years.
Well, I'll give you a tip. Like I just said to one of the ladies this morning, came up and said she works for the clown, and they showed me the makeup. I said, use the least amount of makeup as you possibly can at the Ringling School. I said to these kids, it's all right, get that first laugh, but what do you do after that? That's number one. Number two, with all the makeup, you'll never know how good you are. Because when you take the makeup off, they don't recognize you and they can't walk up and say, weren't you the clown who was in the show? So if you've got just a little suggestion of being a clown, so that they can recognize you, you can hear. So that's what happened to like Lou Jacobs. He's a sad man because nobody recognizes him when he takes his makeup off. I worked with